Greetings, everyone. Tonight we are here because of a promise that I made to my conservative friends, and I promised I would give them a political platform 10 days into Joe Biden's uh, presidency. So tonight, here we are. We have Nick and Christine back. And how are you tonight, Christina?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you, James?
I'm doing fine. Nick, how are you?
Uh, as good as a Republican could be in 2021.
Okay. I'm going to try to get Dave in here. He just sent me a note back. I told him that you were going to be on, so I'm going to see if I can get him in sometime during your presentation.
Cool.
But without further ado, I will turn the program over to you guys.
Excellent. As it should be. Okay, so here we are again, making James show the best it ever gets. And apologize for the background noise. Let me know, James, if it's too much, and I'll leave. I definitely think that there's a lot of unanswered questions from this election. And first of all, after the 2016 election, can you recall what happened with the Democratic Party? Did they willingly and happily accept the rightful election of Donald Trump? Did they willingly accept him as the legitimately elected president? I mean, I know you wouldn't even use his name, let alone, justified as the president, even though he didn't win the popular vote. There were numerous theories floating around, everything from, and I mean, just starting with that of occupied force of his. Help me if I, am mistaken here. I don't recall any major news outlets being censored, being silenced, and their unsubstantiated, fabricated rumors that Vladimir Putin interfered with our election. You kept hearing election interference and collusion with Russia, conspiracy with Russia. All these unsubstantiated theories that certainly cast doubt on the legitimacy of Donald Trump's rightful election. And now it's our turn to try to shed some light on some very, very concerning irregularities. And I can give at least a dozen. And they're continually written off as, oh, well, that's just coincidence. That's just human error. Human error that the water leak that supposedly evacuated everybody from the stadium turned out to just be a leaky valve, and that was just an inconvenient coincidence. Another inconvenient coincidence about the poll workers being told to go home, thus the poll watchers being told to go home, and then, despite what they were told, the votes are counted, and then right around this time, all these swing states just flip. And if we somehow say that seems odd, that seems like a striking coincidence, the fact that you can adjudicate a vote using the Dominion voting systems, which has not been disproven by even Dominion. We're just told that no election interference, safest election in history, and shut up, stop rioting, and go home. The party that condoned rioting and protests for almost 9 months suddenly is appalled that conservatives would use the tactics of the left, that the left not only condoned, they outright supported by bailing out protesters. And yet what happened in the Capitol was just unthinkable. So I'm happy that the Democrats are busying themselves trying to put forth impeachment 2.0, because the disastrous policies they've already put forth in place, trying to get us back from the Paris Treaty, trying to shut down Keystone XL, trying to stop production of the border security wall. That's fine. If they want to stop more executive orders and focus on something that is futile and pointless as impeachment, I'm glad that that's what they're focused on, because it's very rare that Democrats, progressives, actually do anything meaningful to significantly help small business owners, the poor constituents, instead of just complaining that it's the wealthy, the white man, conservatism that is your enemy. Instead of just constantly griping about everything that's wrong, do something constructive. Show us that we're better off with them. Show us some examples of where I'll show you Chicago, and I'll show you New York State and states that had one party Democrat rule, and they certainly did not turn for the better. But and they don't want focus placed on them. So they have a strong offense. They continue to point to the Republicans as occupy. In California, Newsom wasted on this $20 billion that the EDD cost through aid payments. The vaccine disaster. Until recently, we've had more votes for Governor Newsom's recall than we've had vaccines in winter. So
Hello?
Hello, Nick. It seems like we have lost Nick. No, he's back. Nick, are you on speakerphone by any chance, Nick?
His mic is muted.
Yeah, maybe he might be on speakerphone. That's why we're getting
the
feed. Why we're getting the feedback. Would you want to make any comments until Nick gets back there?
Well, I think you had wanted an update on how we felt Biden was doing during the first few days of his presidency. Let's say.
Yeah,
it's not 100 days yet, right? First 10 days.
First 10.
It's kind of shocking to me that he would issue 17 executive orders on his first day. And what he's basically doing is rolling back everything. It's almost like, well, Trump did this, I'm going to do exactly the opposite. Assuming, it's like you have this, it doesn't really matter whether the program is good or not, whether there may be benefits in the program. It's just the fact that Trump put it into place, so we're going to roll it back.
Could you name one bill, just one, that Trump put into place that Biden overturned in his first 17 days? And you have to remember that this is the precedent set by Trump. Trump set the precedent for signing all these executive orders. This is not the way things were done before Trump. Is there any? Do we accept any blame there?
I understand. See, the thing is, if it works for the Democrats, they're fine with it. If it works for the Republicans, on the other hand, it doesn't. They have a problem with it. So my problem is, okay, for example, the Paris Climate Accords, right? He wants to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. That's a problem, because what you're essentially doing is committing the US to a program, because we talk about climate change, where the US says, okay, we will follow through with our promises, but there's no such guarantees and no such penalties for any of the other countries who've joined the agreement. They just say, well, yeah, we'll decide whether or not we want to follow it. To me, that's kind of sneaky. That's unfair. And we're spending tons of money for something that may have very little benefit. Now, this is without looking at the Paris Climate Accord in detail. It's just the fact that Trump pulled out of it. Now I'm going to issue an executive order signing us back onto it. Did he really look at it? Did he spend any time looking over what the benefits might be or what the disadvantages would be? I don't think so. So it's not just about following along because Trump did it. That's fine if they're good executive orders, but I think in many, many ways, all he's doing is reacting. He's not enacting legislation. And that's my main concern. We cannot be a reactive society and we cannot be a reactive government. We have to think through what the policies are, what the possible side effects might be of instituting these kinds of things. Can you argue that? What do you think were the benefits of the Paris Climate Agreement?
Well, personally, I was for the Paris agreement. I didn't. I thought it was actually a bad move for Trump to pull us out. We've been talking about the Paris agreement, or at least climate change, since Al Gore. I mean, this is not something that was new. And when we originally got into the agreement, we kind of had to change people's mind as far as the amount of money that was going to be uh, promoted to climate change, and a lot of the laws that we're talking about. I mean, do you honestly think that burning fossil fuels is a way for us to progress as a nation when we have wind resources, we have water resources, we do have the ability to use clean resources.
Absolutely.
Now that doesn't mean that every country in the world has to do this, just like every country in the world is not a democracy.
But do you know who the main polluters are? It's not the US, because we now have vehicles that have very low emissions, CO2 emissions. That was not the case in the 70s, right? We had these big gas guzzlers and they were outputting a lot of CO2 fumes. That is not the case now.
But that is mostly due to states like California that have actually tightened up on air pollution, and that's something that you always, when we present forth environmental friendly things, that's always the first thing that, oh well, it's liberal California and they're against the little guy and him making money. Do you realize that the jobs on the pipeline that were closed down, these were high paying jobs. These weren't jobs for the general public. These, anybody can be a wind technician. Anybody can be a solar technician. These people that work on these pipelines, we're talking about them losing jobs, but these people are in the top 10% of earning. What are we going to do about the other 90%? I mean, we are trying to, promote jobs. Like I said, solar energy, solar, wind. He hasn't stopped fracking.
No, but it takes time to develop those technologies, right? I mean, the impact that we see maybe 10, 15 years down the line. What we have done is made some significant inroads. The basic question is whether or not climate has changed as a result of fossil fuels, and whether it's in this country. Now, this Paris Climate Accord is a global agreement. And if China is still putting out fossil fuel emissions, anything that we do isn't going to help unless we curb what they are producing. And we have not been able to get them to agree that, okay, I'm going to significantly reduce fossil fuel emissions, or I will be penalized for it. That's the main problem. It seems like we're taking all of the responsibility and all of the financial burden, and none of the other countries are. That's probably why Trump backed out, saying, I don't want to be the pansy for this.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I mean, yeah. No, I mean, I can't agree with it, but I understand your point. If people don't want to be associated with the Paris agreements, but like I said, I mean, and I agree with Nick. When in 2016. When I woke up and I found out this man had obtained the highest office in the land, I was sick for 3 days because I knew exactly what he stood for. But you know,
Okay. So to you, what did he, I'm just asking, what did he stand for to you?
a racist bigot, and that, and
Okay.
I'm not, and I'm using personal examples because during the time of when Atlantic City was at its boom, I lived in New York.
Mhm.
Not only did I try to rent property from Trump properties, but I also tried to get jobs in Atlantic City, and the jobs were distinctly racial. How do you say it? Like
Racially discriminatory.
right, but not, well, you like you had to have a certain amount of minorities. So if you had, you know, if you were had a minimum of say, I mean, if you had a maximum of 5, then you might have a chance of getting 2. You know, and the fact that I mean, he didn't even pay the workers for for what was done on his own casinos. I mean, this man has repeatedly, especially for the people back east. You know, I live out here in California now,
Mhm. Mhm.
but you know, I mean, Trump Tower was not well. Trump Properties was not
Yeah.
a place that we thought that we would be able to get equal opportunity or equal housing.
So are you talking about now is the concern equal opportunity or equity? So you're saying that you didn't like Trump because he was racist and bigoted. Yes?
Yes, and I don't think that he's changed. I don't see
Now,
where's
what makes you so sure that Biden is any different?
now Biden to me is kind of like Hillary, okay, and
Oh boy.
uh, and,
The one who called all of the people who wouldn't vote for her deplorables?
hey,
A woman who discriminated against
what
all of
what
those women who were victimized by her husband? She didn't support them. She says, I'm
oh
a
wait a
woman's
minute,
rights supporter, but she
well
just throws them under the bus. That
not
woman?
you haven't heard my reasons why yet.
Okay.
Okay. Because like Hillary, Biden is the lesser of two evils. Okay. Donald Trump is is evilness personified.
Okay. What makes him
Uh,
evil personified? I mean, under his administration, before COVID struck, my understanding was the economy was doing fairly well. What is it that makes him evil per se? Yeah, he mouths off a lot. He
no,
mouths off a lot.
as I said, my personal experiences. This is what makes him evil to me.
Is
I'm not saying that everybody holds my point of view. You ask me my reasons.
okay. All right.
And so my reasons are strictly personal. If you look on my social media, if you look
Mhm.
anywhere else, I will say that my reasons for Donald Trump started back in 1982.
Okay.
I have not changed my opinion of him. He has not done anything for me to change my opinion of him. And as far as I'm concerned, the darkest day in American history is when he came down the escalator at Trump Tower. But that's my opinion.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
And also as a black person,
mhm.
for him to say that he is the greatest president that has done things for black people since Lincoln. I mean, really? Are you kidding me? I mean, you know, this to me is narcissism at its finest. I
Okay,
mean,
he's a narcissist. No, nobody argues that.
okay,
Nobody
no,
argues that he's a narcissist.
but I'm just giving you, you know, reasons for my
Okay,
personal opinion. So, as a black man, I can't condone Donald Trump's stance. As like I said, you know, being the greatest president since Lincoln, I definitely can't condone that. I can't condone the fact that you know you talk about Hillary, but I mean, you know, Donald has said quite some things in its past, and it's very uh, I, I don't know because it seems like more black men voted for Donald Trump during this
This
election.
election, yes, correct. There
But
must have been a reason for that.
yeah, because black men are basically followers. Usually, if you look at the basic makeup of the American black family, the woman is the matriarch, and those are the people that turned against Donald Trump.
They turned against him for the same reason that you did. They didn't like him personally. They were not looking at his policies. They were just looking at the person and saying, he mouths off, he says all of these things, he's a racist. Right? It's a personal opinion.
Well, that was
It's-
for me. That was for me. I can't
But a lot-
say that
Sure.
80 million Americans voted for him for the same reason that I did. I mean,
Right.
that,
But a
that-
lot of people voted against him for personal reasons. They did not like the way he came across. I personally don't like the way he came across. And I will tell you, James, I'm not a white person. I'm not a male. So I should have the same reason to dislike him that you do.
No. Just because I like steak doesn't mean that you like steak. You might like chicken.
But the point is that if you say he's a racist, I should feel the same way, right? That he's racist against anybody who isn't white or male.
No. This is we have free speech in America. Otherwise, I mean, just like the people that voted for Trump in 2016, I didn't agree with them. I voiced my opinion, and I have no problem with conservatives voicing their opinion now. But I don't think that I don't think a conservative or a liberal should vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden for the same reasons that I did. I think we have a freedom. I mean, this this is it.
Okay.
This is what I fought for. I mean,
Absolutely. Yes, you're a veteran also.
Right. So
we're coming back to the crux of the matter, which is freedom of opinion and freedom of speech.
Right. This is why I let conservatives have their say also.
We appreciate that. I think, though, James, that what is happening in general in this country is that freedom of speech is only reserved for the people who have power. And that's currently the left, the very, very extreme left at that too. So if you disagree in any way, shape, or form with the opinions that they put out there or the decisions that they make, they find ways to shut you down and cancel you. And that's the scary thing. See, you're willing to let us come on and debate with you and differ with you. But the general trend that's going on is, oh my God, I can't say this because they will shut me down. They will cause me to lose my job. They will cause me to lose my reputation. They will come after me and attack me. That's the scary part, that we're not able to have a debate and discussion. Sure, you don't like Trump because he's a bigot and a racist. I don't like him because he mouths off. He's chauvinistic. He doesn't know when to shut up. He doesn't take good advice. He's a narcissist, all of those things. But I look at the things that he has done for the country, and the country had prior to COVID. I mean, everybody blamed the way that COVID was managed on him. But the fact was that he did send, early on, this is in January, he sent a ship all the way up to New York Harbor filled with PPE equipment. People don't remember that. And he did allocate a lot of funding for COVID relief, but they all said, well, he didn't shut the country down in time. He didn't do the right thing. What was the right thing? Now Biden signs an executive order making masks mandatory on federal property. That's one of his executive orders, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What is the benefit of that? Tell me. How many people? Federal property. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
What's the benefit of that?
Well, because he cannot mandate masks for everyone in public.
Perfect.
I could now. I will say this. I went and got my COVID shot yesterday. So the first one. So I can see how things have progressed much better under the Biden administration as far as getting shots in the arms.
Is that because of the Biden administration? Or is
Yes.
it because we're getting better at allocating or distributing these resources that have, if over time, under Trump, that would have also happened? So again, we're going
How-
back, we're blaming Trump on everything.
Okay, wait. How can you say that this is that eventually, that this would have happened under 45? First of all,
How would it
we
not?
had when we had 15 cases out here in Washington D.C., he said that was it. It's over with. We won't have any more. He failed to recognize that we had strains coming in on both coasts from two different sources. The European coronavirus was not the same as the Asian coronavirus. And then instead, we had this rapid rollout that, because of the fact that we have seen vaccines take many, many years.
That's right.
Now
To
all of a
develop,
sudden,
yes.
now all of a sudden we see one that's developed in less than a year, and it's developed by a man that has fired or has decided that he doesn't want to be a part of the WHO. I
There's a
mean, yeah,
reason for that. There's a
well,
very good reason for that.
there's a
And I
reason
agree
for
with
that.
him.
There's a reason for everything. There's a reason why the people attacked the Capitol. There's a reason for everything, and most
Yes.
of it lands right
Now,
in his lap.
wait. Hold on. People attacking the Capitol, there's no way to excuse what they did. Absolutely no way. Not a single person in this country would ever excuse what the rioters did at Capitol Hill. But they were acting out of rage. He could have said something to diffuse that rage. He could have said nothing at all. He could have said, just go home. Don't get excited.
Don't you think that black people have been enraged for almost 400 years? I mean, we can't go and attack the Capitol. I mean, look at what happened to a peaceful protest in front of a church, for somebody to
Yes,
go and
but
hold a Bible upside down. I
sure,
mean,
but what happened over the summer? What happened over the summer in Portland, in Baltimore? There are many, many areas where Black-owned businesses were destroyed. In Black communities were destroyed. Right? Do you think that? I mean, that's the rage coming out?
well, here's the thing. Because you have to remember my age. I'll be 74
Sure.
tomorrow.
Sure, yeah.
So in 1967, I was a part of the riots in Detroit.
Mhm.
As a soldier. We were set there to actually quell the riots.
Okay.
So during the summer of 1967, we saw that rage.
Yeah.
But the difference was that we burned down our own neighborhoods. We caused insufferable harm to ourselves politically as well as economically. And out of
And
that,
that's still going on.
right, and that's my problem. Why are you? And I'm not blaming liberals or Democrats. I'm blaming both. I am wondering why I am still having the same conversation in 2021 that I had in 1967. It does not make sense to me. What it seems like happened is that during certain administrations, the extreme right went underground. And now no, I'm not. And now since Charlottesville, they have been given carte blanche. And that doesn't just include white extremists. I'm including black extremists, Latin
Sure.
extremists, proud
Sure.
boys. I'm talking about
All of
all
that,
of
yes.
these far extreme groups. And if we wanted to have, if we really and truly wanted to have a conversation
Mhm.
with each other and talk to each other instead of
Mhm.
talking at each
At
other,
each other, yes.
this is something that should have been done 40 years ago, and it should have been a continuing dialogue. We both
Sides got entrenched,
yeah,
yes.
right, and we got comfortable with the status quo. Now we divided ourselves so far apart to where, is there somewhere where there is a middle ground?
It's rapidly disappearing. That is my fear. You know, to have a middle ground, it requires both sides to look at their opinion, to look at the other side's opinion and say, okay, I don't agree with you, but you have some valid points. What has come out instead is you have no valid points if you don't agree, right? Do you agree?
Oh, I definitely agree.
So the question now is, where do we go from here? We have all of these problems. We still have the economy reeling from COVID, right? And we have yet to develop a viable solution. Yes, this vaccine is being rolled out, but it's for only one strain of the virus. And now they're already coming out with 3 different strains that they're saying the vaccine isn't effective against. Now what do we do? Is that Trump's fault because he didn't identify the right virus to direct research to? It's circumstance. It happened. And now we have to deal with it and all of the fallout. So I think, we're not healing because we're still attacking one another. I sympathize with everything that you've gone through as a person of color. I really do. But what is the solution? Where do we begin to set things right? For everybody. It's not just for one group. Every group has their complaints. Women have their complaints. Black people have their complaints. Asians have their complaints. The gay community has their complaints. How do we satisfy everybody and make everybody happy? I don't know that it's possible. We have to give up something. We have to compromise somewhere. Nobody wants to compromise.
But okay, now, so let's go back to compromise and back to the election of 2016. After 45 was inaugurated, there was a lot of kickback, about as you said, like, how did this happen? How do you lose the election by 3 million votes, but yet still win the election
Well,
for college?
I
mean,
think people expected Hillary to win, but if you talk to the people in the middle ground, right, the Midwest and everything else, the people on the coasts thought, she's a sure winner. But the people in between who had lost their jobs and they were really suffering, they were the ones that voted. Nobody paid attention to them, and they were the ones that voted for Trump largely.
Okay, well, let me.
Nobody was paying attention to that.
Let me ask you this then, because this is my biggest fear, or I think that 45 was a direct result of us electing a black president. And I think that trying to, and this didn't have to be Hillary. I think it could have been any woman. I think that not only, the fact that it was Hillary made it easier, but I don't think that the nation was ready to have a minority and then another minority president. If you remember,
no, you're talking about Obama, and then who else as the other minority? You mean Hillary?
Any woman. It didn't have to be just Hillary. It could. I think it could have just as easily been Elizabeth Warren. It could have been, it could have been. It could have been any woman. I just don't think that we were ready to have a black president and then have a woman president right behind it. And the reason why I say that is because it was such an extreme. I mean, I don't care how you look at it. I mean, the extreme between the former Republican presidents, the Bushes, the Eisenhower. If you look back at any of those, 45 was elected to write, to me, to write what they considered the wrong of 8 years.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
And the fact that, I think that's where the division began. Now, I don't understand how 4 years can leave us with such a divide than we had in the previous 40. I mean, we are more divided now than I
I
think
agree with you.
than we were during the days of Lyndon Johnson
Absolutely, I agree with
or
you.
any other. Okay, so how do you so if 45 was a white backlash or a left backlash,
Backlash.
uh,
Mhm.
uh, right, excuse me, a right backlash, then now we're
The
we're
left
experiencing a
backlash.
left backlash. I
Yes.
mean, it's like you throw a stone at my glass house. When I get in,
I'll tear the house down. Yeah, your house
right,
down. Yeah.
right.
James, if I could
So-
make a request,
yes,
it's very hard for me to follow numbers. I like names. I
okay.
know you don't like to refer to I mean you like to refer to him as 45, but for me, I like
Okay,
to personalize things and
okay. I'll use.
if we could do that just for the
I,
purposes of this conversation.
okay, I'll use Trump.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Uh,
Just a special exception.
uh, okay. But
Sure.
I mean, uh, here's a man that you knew when you elected him.
Mhm.
His personal background. I mean, it was a matter of record.
Yeah.
It was also a matter of record that he was a former Democrat. And
Yes.
and he didn't think about running until the Obama roast. I mean, you have to
That's what it was. Yes.
right.
Which,
So,
if you really think about it, it was unfair of Obama to do that. Don't you? I mean, I would feel embarrassed if I'm sitting in the audience and the person who's speaking singles me out. See, I'll give you a similar example. This is when Hamilton, the cast of Hamilton,
yes,
do you remember that? They performed
yes,
at the White House, and then Mike Pence was in the audience.
right,
Remember
right,
that?
right.
So they stopped the show to point at him and kind of single him out for ridicule. To me, that's just bad manners. He was there to enjoy the show like everybody else. If you had an issue with him, you could have talked to him separately. You could have emailed him separately, sent him a letter separately. So, I mean, there's a lot of this kind of stuff going on that I don't agree with. That's not the way to conduct civil discourse.
Okay. I mean,
And what Obama did, it would make me angry. Say, why are you picking on me? You want to pick on me? You do it fair and square, but not when I'm sitting in the audience and listening to a presentation. This was making a point, and that would make me angry.
but this was a roast.
You can roast, but he picked him out of the audience specifically to roast. You can roast anybody. He was
Right.
sitting in the audience. He was not sitting on stage. And knowing that he was being roasted, he was an audience member.
Well, whether or not he knew he was going to be roasted was something else. I mean, but I mean, the dynamics between the two of the men had changed over 3 years. Neither one of us knows exactly what caused it,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the original relationship as it started out when Obama was first running.
Was
for
first
president.
elected, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So something happened between the two men. I don't know what happened between them, but I do know when the particular event started. So I will grant you that there was a certain amount of animus on both sides, but
Mhm.
I think there was always animus between the Democrats and Republicans, but I don't. For some reason, in 2016, it got taken to the next level. It
I
was kind
think
of
not so much animus as disagreement, right? There was
No,
disagreement between the two sides, but the level of animus
yeah. Okay. Then we
increased.
Okay. All right.
Right? I can that much I can agree, and it reached a boiling point in 2020.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I think a lot of that, honestly, was probably because of COVID. You had a trifecta there, right? You had a hated president for other than 75 million Americans, he was absolutely hated. And then you had the economy that tanked. You had people getting sick. You had a virus running out of control. There were so many things that that kind of polarized, and people started looking and say, well, it's a struggle between the haves and the have-nots. I think without COVID, we might have seen something very different. That's my personal feeling.
Okay.
Hey,
You know,
James,
yes. No, you're back, Nick. Okay.
I've been here the whole
Okay.
time. It's just honestly, it's so refreshing to hear people on opposite sides of the political spectrum, like you and Chris, have a civil discourse. It's a beautiful thing. And I heard everything you guys were talking about. And, one of the things that was addressed early on is, how we got to this point. And it's basically because people that don't agree on politics feel like if I know one thing about you, then I know
Oops, everything about you is, I think,
Yeah.
what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
I made this description.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, there was a time, and I won't say that I'm completely over it,
Mhm.
but there was a time when I believed that everyone that voted for Trump was a racist or a bigot.
Sure.
Uh, like I said, that was once again, I can't.
Although you didn't have
I,
any specific evidence to say,
no,
it's just the
well,
fact that they voted for him. See, that's that one
right,
characteristic thing
right,
that Nick
right,
was probably talking about.
right, and like I said, I've always said that my thing with Trump was a personal
Personal.
thing.
Yeah.
So so therefore, I mean, when um, a person
Mhm.
votes for someone that I think is a racist or just a degenerate individual,
Mhm.
then I have to think that if you embrace one quality, you embrace them all. And this possibly goes back to my military background is that
Sure.
the enemy in front of me. I can recognize the enemy in front of me much quicker than I can recognize the enemy behind me.
Okay.
So
But
so so Donald Trump was an easy target for me.
sure, he didn't do anything to help himself either. It's an easy target
Right.
for you. He's an easy target for the media, a lot of people, because he didn't really do anything to endear himself to the people. He just said, "This is who I am. You take me the way I am.
Right.
I'm brutal. I'm frank. I'm uncouth. I have no sophistication. I'm not an Obama. I didn't have that kind of personality. But hey,
Right.
I'll give it to you the way it is."
Right. But if I mean, if you back that particular person, then I have to kind of look at you first. I have to look at you, through one lens,
Mhm.
and then as I get educated, it's possible for me to look at you through another lens.
See,
But
that's the difference. Education means you have to have a conversation, right? But if you just look at the outside lens, that's the whole point of bigotry and prejudice. Looking at the outside covering of a person and ascribing certain qualities or characteristics to them. Now, you were in the military. Can we talk about that a little bit?
sure,
Okay, in the military, you are given a mission saying that you have to fight against this particular enemy because he
right,
is an enemy of our government or our country or whatever it is.
right, I agree.
Right? So is it possible that that enemy might have the same directive from their government? They are fighting for the same things that you are, but they're on the opposite side. They have families, they have jobs, they have viewpoints that they subscribe to that they are defending just as passionately as you are defending your side. Now, who is right and who is wrong?
Okay,
You've
now
just been thrown together in opposition, but
I,
maybe in different circumstances you might be friends.
I can tell you stories about that.
Probably on
After,
a different occasion, but I'm just
well,
saying that.
Well, no, no. To kind of understand, or to get you to understand
Mhm.
what you know, my, when you say that, one of our the missions that we have after a firefight is cleanup.
Okay.
And that means picking up the bodies of your enemies
Yeah.
as well as your own.
Yeah.
And you get to know people through the things that they carry into battle.
Hmm.
A lot of these men carried pictures of their families into
Yep.
battle.
Yep.
They had sometimes, knowing that this was going to be their last days, they wrote letters to their family.
Hmm.
And when you see that these people are the same,
Hmm.
basically, as you are, I mean, they're just men.
Yes.
They're just men, and they're doing, like you said, they're doing the same thing
You're
that
doing.
that you're doing.
Hmm.
Now, during the battle, you don't have time
No.
for that
No.
sympathy,
Correct.
but afterwards, you do look at it and you say, well, he was just a man. He was just following his orders.
Yeah.
Now that gives you a different perspective.
Yeah.
But it does not change the fact that he is your enemy, or that the objective is
No,
so
no,
and
you have
so.
a job to do at that time, yes, and you
Right,
have to do that job regardless of your personal feelings or your
right,
sympathies or whatever it is. What
right.
I'm trying to say, though, James, is given that we need to heal, we need to pull together. We cannot keep looking at each other as the enemy. We cannot keep saying unity, 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 and then finding ways of, like Biden is doing, finding ways of, and I still think he is, ways of dividing us further. If you want unity, you say, hey, let's everybody sit down and talk about what we need to do to rebuild this country. That's not the message I'm getting from him, to be honest.
Well, don't you think that he also owes it to his constituents to fulfill some of the promises that he made to us when we put him in office? Now, you see, I also have an opinion on Biden, because I don't think that Biden will be around to run for the next election in 2024.
Sure.
Whether
Yeah.
whether
For
it's
whatever reason. Yeah.
right, and I think that Biden is also kind of a stopgap for the left. We still have to find a way to win back most of those 74 million people that voted for Trump. We have to find a way to unify. I mean, you can't go around, as you say, divided the way we are. We have to find some way of getting to a middle ground.
Yes.
But it's just like any other relationship. We've lost trust. How do you get the trust back? I mean, you have Trump saying that the system was corrupt. You have other, but whether the system was corrupt or not, this is the only system that we have.
Correct.
This is
Yes.
we have to find a way. I mean, do we start with the mechanics? Do we start with the people? I mean, it's getting so that if I see a, a white person that turns around and gives me a second look, I'm wondering, whether it's because of the mask I have on,
Mhm.
or whether it's because of the hat that I wear.
Mhm.
It's no longer. There was a time when you could go to a bar, or you
Yeah.
could go to a Starbucks, or
Yeah.
just sit down and have a conversation across a meal. You can't do that anymore. I mean,
Things have changed. Yes.
even though we're looking at each other, we're still far apart.
Yeah.
So I mean, so how do you, just like I said in any other relationship, how do you reclaim that trust?
See, some of that I think is just innate. It's an innate or subconscious perception. Okay, I will tell you something different. As a woman, okay, it doesn't matter black, white, or whatever. If I see this, tall, rather bulky guy coming towards me, There's no smile on his face, and he's looking intimidated, and he's coming right towards me. I'm going to be really scared. Hasn't opened his mouth yet. I don't know where he's coming from. Maybe I might be less scared if he's nicely dressed, but if he's kind of, what can I say, roughly dressed and he hasn't shaved and blah, blah, you do have a perception. You can't avoid that. Right? So it's some things you can't undo. And some of our prejudices are very, very deep-seated. No matter how much legislation we pass, there are certain things that we just can't legislate, can't.
You can't legislate hate. That that's.
No, you can't legislate hate. It's not even going as far as hate. It's just that knee-jerk reaction of saying, well, this person is like me, this person is not like me. And we all tend to go towards people who are more similar to us rather than different from us. That's just the way we're built instinctively, right? Those are our tribes. We tend to associate with people who are more similar than us. So having that conversation means finding areas where we are similar. How do we do that? In what areas are we similar? Our concern for our families, our concern for education, our concern for having stable jobs, safe place to live, good health. Those are all common concerns, I would think, right?
Yes, yes.
Now we have to find policies that are good for the majority, not good for the minority. And that requires a lot of work and a lot of introspection, a lot of collaboration. We're not seeing that now. Everybody seems to be out for themselves, out to make a quick buck. I don't trust politicians in general, whether they're from the left or from the right or anywhere else. That's the trust I've lost in the system. And I'm not saying that, politicians on the right are any better than politicians on the left. They're all equally self-serving to me.
Right. I can, I have a lot of concerns about things like that. For instance, I don't, I guess you could call me very radical because, first of all, I think we should have term limits. That's
not radical. That's common sense.
And I also think that we shouldn't have anyone in the Senate that is over the age of 50 years old. Which might, once again, that might seem radical, but I don't think that 80-year-olds should be telling 20 and 30-year-olds how to grow
50
up.
may be a little premature, but certainly by 65, you're done.
Yeah,
you should opt out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but term limits would also have, would also
absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah.
But getting back to areas of trust, where do you think that we could start? Because I think we have lost a very viable part of our society, and that's the middle class.
Yep.
I don't think that we have a middle class anymore. I think
no, we don't.
You're either on the edge of poverty or you're on the edge of
massive affluence.
Yeah, so I think
James, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I've been really trying to shut the hell up and let you guys talk, but I can't anymore. So there's so many. I mean, I wanted to put you through like a lightning round because I have so many questions for you, but I don't want to spoil the demeanor that you and Chris are having. I think it's really fantastic and so rare, but I probably still will ruin it. And we only have about 5 minutes left. But the demise of the middle class is certainly no mystery. And with immigration, mainly illegal immigration, do you think that's not going to have an effect on especially the poor blacks? But I mean, the poor Hispanics suffered the most. And then for the middle class, as you're talking about, the demise of the manufacturing sector in this country. And it relates back to this cult-like environmentalism, where I understand the intention is noble. Nobody wants a polluted creek, and we all want better air. But what we've done, like we always do with politics, is we start out with a noble intent, and we go so far overboard that the cure is far worse than the disease. So we used to have a very reliable high school to career to retirement pipeline, and you didn't have to go to school to learn to hate America for 4 years. You could just go to high school, learn a trade, and work in one of the numerous manufacturing sectors, which we've almost entirely outsourced to mostly China. And the Democrats love this, and the Republicans love this. Both sides love illegal immigration because for Democrats, it creates reliable voters, and for Republicans, it creates cheap labor. So neither of them are incentivized to cut down on it. Trump definitely pissed off a lot of people on both sides because he was showing how one-sided these trade deals were with NAFTA, with China, with, of course, the Paris Accords, which China loves because we artificially impair our ability to compete. And it doesn't make the globe any safer. We're all in the same ecosystem. It's just like saying you can't pee in this side of the pool, but you can pee over there. We all suffer if we're in the same pool. So China picks up the slack. They take over the manufacturing sectors that we lose. And not only are we all worse off financially, but we're all worse off from a national security standpoint. Keystone XL has implications on national security. It's not saving union jobs. Where do you think we're going to get this oil? You probably don't drive an electric vehicle, James. So you need gas for your car. And even if you do drive an electric vehicle, which I don't think you do, you still need gas for all the other petrochemicals in your house, in your products. We need to have a reliable source of fuel that won't be from the Middle East, that makes us more dependent on these shahs and ayatollahs that basically have us by the proverbial balls, and they know how dependent we are. And by cutting the Keystone XL, which is going to provide a huge amount of oil from Canada to further make us more energy independent, what we're going to do is increase the likelihood that we're dependent on unstable Middle East regimes. It doesn't make us better off environmentally. It makes it so other more polluting countries use far less regulated means of energy extraction. If we produce in America, we have some of the highest, most stringent environmental regulations, which is why companies would rather bear the expense and the language barrier of having their products produced 5,000 miles away than in their own backyard where they're headquartered. We've made it incompatible with profitable enterprises. We all of us are guilty of exploiting child labor in China. If you have an iPhone or if you buy inexpensive clothes, you are facilitating the abhorrent behavior that we all condone with our pocketbook by allowing the Communist Party of China, the Chinese Communist Party, to use tactics that would never be allowed in our country for humanitarian reasons, for environmental reasons, for wage and labor regulations. We put all that aside so we don't have to look at it in our own backyard and assume that we're doing the right thing by driving away manufacturing to places that pollute far more than we do in this country. So I do not want to bring hostility to this conversation, but when you have CNN trying to get rid of literally the okay, go ahead.
Wait.
Yeah.
What we were talking about was Joe Biden's first 10 days in office.
Yeah, and I have plenty to talk about on that in the executive orders. Like, why do you think bringing in all these? Maybe we're gonna go past an hour, but so do you think that making the border more open, allowing more of these caravans that are waiting to come in is going to be a good thing for poor Black and Hispanic workers who suffer the most? I don't mean to lead the question.
First of all, I believe that's a myth. I live less than 12 miles away from the border right here. I don't see people throwing fences up trying to get over the border. I don't see we had more people try to smuggle themselves over by water. Since I live in San Diego, I mean, the Navy and the Coast Guard kind of takes care of that. But the reason why the immigration, and I heard the numbers, it's like, well, there's 81% less in California. There's 72% more in Texas. Well, this is because of COVID. This has nothing to do with the policies at the border.
No, but my question is, why is it a good thing that we're going to relax border
standards,
restrictions?
immigration standards.
Yeah, the standards were we're going to allow these caravans to
There
come
are no
in when Trump.
there are no caravans. That's the thing. There are no
Not yet.
caravans.
Not yet.
They're on the way.
They're on the way
You can
because
track
of
them.
COVID.
There's certain you can
Hold
see
on.
where they are right now.
I can say that civil rights movements are on the way. They've been on the way since 1967.
No, there's not a mass of people. There's a massive group. There's a massive people that are coming. We track them. We know exactly where they're coming from. Guatemala. Do you know how many Iranians the Border Patrol arrested on Monday? How many? How many did they arrest? Iranians.
I haven't even looked at those.
Exactly. So, James, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not happening. You can't assume that.
And you can't assume that because people tell you that they're not on the border. It's just like I mean.
But I think
Really?
the general point that Nick is trying to make is the minute you put the word out saying, well, all of these immigrants are allowed to enter the country without proper vetting or just open the doors and let them in, right? Usually immigrants have to get permission. They have to get a visa and they have to go through a lot of hoops to get into the country. But if you just open the doors,
my family had to.
Executive
Chris's
orders.
family had to.
Yeah. It's like opening Pandora's box. You can't shut it. I think that's the point Nick is trying to make. And then they're bringing in their cultures. They're bringing in all kinds of other diseases that we have no way of combating.
Is it that, or is it the fact that white people are afraid that sooner or later that people of color are going to be the majority? I mean, seriously.
No.
Are we really afraid? This America was built on the principle: give me you're tired,
You're hungry, you're poor. Yes.
Right. America.
Well,
all of a
that's
sudden,
from the Statue of Liberty, which was given to us by the French. But
French.
James, I mean
are you really concerned that an immigrant that's coming over here is going to take your job? The job?
No, I'm not. I have the luxury of not being concerned because I'm not competing for those jobs, but I certainly care about the people who are.
Yes.
When I look out here in California and I look at the low-paying jobs, I look at the jobs mostly like in the fast food industry. I look at the jobs in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
I look at the farming jobs. I don't see white
They're all
people.
Hispanic. They're all Hispanic, and of course.
Right. And
I was hoping you were going to make that point. You know why they're all Hispanic?
Right.
Because they've driven wages down. Were they all Hispanic in the 50s? Were they all Hispanic in the 40s?
In the 50s, no, they were black, and I can tell you that because I had family that was down here in those fields.
Right.
So in the 50s, they were.
So what happened? Why do you? So James, there was a huge increase in black unemployment.
Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened. Spanish people, Latino people, whatever you want to call them, are taking the jobs that other people don't want.
That's not true. So why do you think? So what happened?
Hold on.
Okay, no, I gotta stop you there. You spoke. I gotta respond. So the black unemployment rate skyrocketed after the 60s. And why do you think black people just suddenly didn't want to work? You think that they just gave up wanting to work? Why would they want to work?
What do you mean black people don't want to work?
I'm saying it's not. I'm asking you.
Okay,
no. You're missing. No. That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all.
That is what you said. You said black people don't want to work.
At those kind of jobs.
I asked you. I didn't tell you. I asked you. So they don't. So why do you think they don't want to work? I mean, of course they want to work. They were being outsourced and replaced by low-paying Hispanic workers. They couldn't. Yeah, they couldn't get together and argue for a wage increase when they could just be replaced by a Hispanic worker who's going to work for less, just like in the tech
And that's
sector.
one of the reasons the manufacturing jobs were also outsourced, because you could
Okay.
find
Yes.
cheaper labor overseas.
But
And you're going to run into the same problem here.
It's not. It's a total
But-
misconception to think that it's people
didn't
that
you have
don't
the same-
want to work, that don't want to do these jobs. It's a
Didn't you have,
misconception.
didn't we have the same the same conversation when the Chinese came over here to build the railroads? Didn't we have the same conversations when the Italians and the Germans
Well,
and the Jews
of course.
came over after World War II? Because these people,
We're,
look,
we're always
no,
having. Why do you think that is, Ray?
no
It's not
black-
racism,
no
James.
black person or white person is going to go and pull shrimp all day for $3.25 an hour.
Exactly,
No-
and that's the point,
no
right
white
there,
person-
James.
No,
That's
No,
white,
exactly
but,
the
but
point.
it's not
So they
racism.
don't-
It's not a
Hold on.
racist issue.
no, it's not
It's
a
not-
racist
and
issue. It's a person.
And it's
a
not.
person that's
It's
trying
not
to do
work that they
better
don't want to do.
for their
No.
family.
James,
Go ahead.
James. It's
Yes.
not that it's work they don't want to do. They don't want to do it for a wage that they can't live on.
Live on, yeah.
So
Okay.
there's a similar phenomenon going right now with the tech sector. And this happened under Trump. It brought to the surface under Trump because the Tennessee Valley Authority, and you probably didn't read about this in the New York Times, they were forcing their American employees to train their overseas counterparts. A lot of them were from India because there's some amazing coders from India. It's not anything to do with race. It's that they have the ability to
The
live on a
skills.
far lower standard of living, and they have just as good as skills. So it makes an economic benefit for the company to replace more expensive workers with less expensive workers if you're getting similar to the same output. It's a no-brainer. And in fact, these corporations are obligated to go for the most beneficial use of company resources, or they will be ousted by the board. So we've made it so easy for Americans to be replaced by foreign workers. And this is what happened under Trump, is that these American workers were having to
Oops. But you can follow, I mean, obviously we can follow that thread, right?
Yeah,
What he's
yeah,
trying to say is it's not a question of the whites being afraid of a minority overpopulation. It's the fact that their jobs are being taken away by labor that is willing to work for less to do the same job.
But we've heard this since the 1980s. Why didn't we do something about this in
because
the
both
1980s?
parties benefit. Because the party of Bush, the party of the Clintons, and of course Biden and Romney, they all benefit from cheap labor. They don't care where it comes from. They don't care that it's replacing American labor, because these people are far above that level of concern. None of the people who do manual labor themselves, like these politicians who are in executive positions, the white collar people, want cheap labor. It's the blue collar people and the people who have no collar, who are, working in uniform.
In the field,
and
yeah.
Yes, back of the house, hospitality, cleaning. There's a reason why it's been overwhelmingly replaced by Hispanic workers. And then the response to that is, oh, well, look, it's all Hispanics, therefore no white people or black people want to do the job. That's looking past what we've had in this country since the beginning. It was Americans doing work in America. And then once we got addicted to cheap labor, just like we're addicted to cheap crap from China, which we all contribute to every time we choose the cheaper option on Amazon or Walmart over the more expensive, 4 times more expensive on average, American counterpart, we all feed into that. So we're all guilty at our level, just like the people at the top, at the politicians and bureaucratic level, are guilty. It's not a mystery why this has happened, but I don't understand why making border protection less strict and putting a pause on deportations is in the interest of Americans. It's in the interest of Democrats, because the people that come here predominantly vote Democrat because that's their lifeline. They're promised all kinds of benefits, more benefits than poor white people are. And I can give you examples, scholarships.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me give you an example. Okay.
Okay.
One of the reasons why the Cuban community voted for Donald Trump was because of the benefits that they get as soon as they get to America. This is the only Latin American country where if you
No,
touch
that's okay.
it,
Think about. Wait,
wait,
I know what
wait,
you're
wait,
saying, but think
wait,
about. Wait,
wait, wait,
that
wait,
doesn't make
wait,
sense though.
wait,
Why would
wait a
that
minute
doesn't
now.
make sense
Okay.
at all? I know what
Well,
you're saying, but it doesn't make sense. It's
then,
an,
then, then,
it's
then, then why do we do it? Why haven't we?
wait.
Why haven't
So
Why
we?
you're
would you
saying
what?
Well, okay. When a
wait,
Cuban gets to
James?
America, no,
Mhm.
she asked me what I was talking about. When a Cuban
I can
gets
finish
to
the sentence.
America, he gets what they call a gold Social Security card. A gold Social Security card is probably gives him more benefits than you have as an American citizen, and he also gets a certain amount. Well, I don't know if you want to call it a stipend. Yeah,
I mean, a
we'll call
stipend. Yeah.
it a stipend from the government. Now, no other nationality, no other country, Spanish, Latin, any other country gets this particular benefit. So the Cuban community is very beholden to uh, the Republican Party because this is where this naturally started to occur after the Bay of Pigs. So, to say that that there aren't other nationalities in other countries that have more benefits in America, it's because we granted it to them. So if you can see, that there's a disparity between the way that we treat these people and the way we treat those people, how can you possibly think that we're going to embrace these people? Do you think that Black Americans or white Americans really think that when they go to get interviewed for a job, there's a certain animosity toward that Spanish person because you know that they will probably take that job for less than you will? Not saying that they'll do it better, but don't you think that this all fuels the disunity between left and right?
See, we can't go by what we feel. We have to go by facts.
Yeah, but I
Right.
need to respond to. I waited patiently to respond to your
Good.
claim about Cubans voting for Republicans because of the policy. So that just, I'm sorry, but it falls on its face. So if what you're saying is that Cubans
You can go
voted
on
Republican,
YouTube. You can go on
no,
YouTube and watch the celebrations if you want. I mean, this is
okay,
not
that's
something
still
this is not something that I made up. This is something
no,
that
no, no. What you're
this
no,
is
no, no,
something
no, no. What
that
I
the
mean,
Cuban
I read.
community has
No,
said.
no,
Okay.
I read New York Times as well, and I know what they want me to believe, and what they tell me to believe is
I
that
would.
Cubans.
I don't
No,
read
what?
New
No,
York
Okay,
Times.
but when I
Nick
do,
isn't. Yeah, let him.
when I do, what I'm told to believe by New York Times, because they don't respect their viewers and readers enough to actually let them form their own opinions, they make it very clear cut. Here's what they tell me to believe: Cubans vote Republican for what you said, is that when they come to America, they get special privileges. Okay, what does that have to do with Republicans? That's the United States policy. What and why did they vote in higher rates for Trump in 2020 than in 2016? You know why? You know what the reason why that New York Times conveniently didn't discuss is that the push towards socialism is what frightened Cubans because they fled socialism in Cuba. Socialism and its closely related counterpart, communism. They saw what was happening because they were young enough to remember what happened when they lost
Castro.
they lost their beautiful country because they saw the same promises. They saw the same divisive rhetoric by the communists, which always benefit the communists. It's just it never trickles down to the people. It hasn't worked in Cuba. It hasn't worked in Venezuela. It hasn't worked in the Soviet Union. But it sounds so compelling. So the Cubans voted against socialism. And it wasn't the party of the Democrats that was against socialism. It was the party of Trump. That's the only choice they had. So tell me why that isn't the most compelling reason Cubans had to vote for Trump, rather than a policy that is not based on Republicans giving them citizenship. It's based on the United States giving them citizenship. The Democrats give them the same citizenship that the Republicans do, so that wouldn't explain why they vote Republican.
Well, Republicans voted are the ones that actually voted for them to have these benefits. Like I said, if you go back and check the history, go back. As a matter of fact, don't read the New York Times. Go to Newsweek. Go to Newsweek. Go to Time. If you want to, you can even. You can go back and look at some of the John Birch papers if you really want to go back and look. Because the John Birch Society.
What it's facing them now is far. So, what do you think is more relevant? What happened in the past? They're looking at. I mean, what's happening on a monthly basis as we get this pushed in. Let's try to
hold on. You said why look at the past. My whole conception of Trump and the Republican Party is due to my history with them, not due to my future. Not my future. I don't know my future. I know my past.
No, we only know the present, and we can only go by what is true for everyone, right? Let's go by the policies and the laws. And we could talk about your feelings about Trump and my feelings about Biden, and that's why most political discussions are pointless and futile, and we're not going to change each other's opinion. But what we can find common ground on is where we both are being manipulated. And what I think the Democrats are doing is using everything that they don't like and calling it racist, and everybody they don't like and calling them racist. And they're exploiting legitimate racism that desensitizes everyone to it when they make a false claim. Just like when Jesse Smollett, we're still looking for those MAGA wearing Trump attackers, right? Because that was a legitimate account. What happens?
I mean, come on now. Let's not get that.
When you cry wolf. When you cry wolf and you overuse a trite cliche of, oh, well, that's racist, it cheapens it. And people take the term less seriously. So when something that actually is racist happens, they're already desensitized.
Yeah.
Because they've learned to be desensitized. Bubba Wallace, another time.
That's white people. That's white people.
No, that's everybody. That's
everyone.
Hold on, and I hate to make this sound racist, but that's white people because you don't have the same history that we have. So when you say it's because of hold on,
we all have different kinds of forms of bigotry for different reasons.
And we can play the oppression game, James. I think I'm going to win.
Hold on, Nick. Hold on, because I know one of the things that you're saying is because you want to you want to bring up the Jewish aspect. Okay, well
I don't want to.
I'll also bring up the aspect that I'm also not white.
Oh, okay.
But I was discriminated against as well. So again, you can always.
And once again,
I'm female.
Once again, though, that goes back to my original premise about how people of color, whether they're black, light brown, whether they're male or female, there has been an innate fear that this country has used to express that black people are somehow the enemy, that we're the ones to be feared because we're different. And because you can
James,
see Nick, hold on.
James, you've been talking without interruption. I get to respond before you move on to the next point.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
The only people right now that are preaching for racial hatred out front on newspaper headlines in Congress are Democrats preaching racial hatred against white people. And it's so violent, so virulent, so abhorrent that it's tearing our country apart. And
our country has been torn apart. It's never been put back together. It's never been put back together.
It used to be, look, our country was better off before the 60s, before the government tried to help. We had lower black unemployment rate. We had lower black rates of incarceration. We had lower black rates.
Unified black families.
Yeah.
You didn't have families headed by single mothers as much in the 40s. That all happened in the 60s. And that kind of started the spiral in what happened to the black community generally, because you have single family households, single.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm making this more about me than I am about the conservative point of view. I'm going to give. Let's see, Nick, you only wanted an hour, but I'll give you another few minutes. Go ahead and kind of finish off your point of view. I don't want to make this about me. So you and Christina, kind of see where you find middle ground, and as I listen, maybe I'll find some middle ground.
Nick? Is he there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Did I
yeah.
get muted? Okay.
I don't know. You were silent, so.
Oh, yeah, I think James is shadow muting me. So we always seem to be so short-sighted when we pass policies that benefit us in the short term. And I mean, everything from Joe Biden saying only dictators use executive orders. He said that in October of last year, October. And now you can't say he's not a dictator. He's following through exactly what he described. A dictator uses executive orders. So when we do these things, like right now, what we're doing is we are incentivizing racial hatred. We are tearing people out of their jobs, like what happened in the Southern food movement, what happened at Bon Appetit. Because they're white, we want to have more diversity, and that's zero sum. So instead of helping minorities with the extra training, with the opportunities, which we've done, there is no law in the books anymore.
Still there?
Yeah. So I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So what we're doing right now is a very dangerous experiment. We're trying to redress the racial wrongs in this country by burdening people who had nothing to do with Jim Crow and making them pariahs, making them suffer in the way that blacks suffered in this country. And I understand why they're doing it. There's intense vitriol, but it doesn't end well. And it only foments racial hatred. It accentuates our differences. There's hardly any pure racial bloodlines in this country anymore. We're all mulattoes. We're all mixtures of different races at this point. And to think that because somebody looks white, then they have this whole and that we can just make a determination. We can make a determination based on how we perceive them. You look like you don't have as much melanin, so you're probably not and it's not scientific.
We've lost you.
Yeah, I mean, it's purely emotional based. We had that conversation early on in the podcast, right? We make a prejudicial determination based on what the outside is, and we don't really we assign a lot of blame for things that shouldn't be blamed. Still there?
He's muted right now, but he's back here. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, we're back to the essential point. If we have this level of anger against each other, whether we're white, black, or any other color, how do we go forward?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm still trying to figure out how I can reconcile with my neighbor that had a Trump Pence sign in his yard. I mean, does he look at me like I'm 3/4 of a human? Does he look at me as a leftist radical because I wear a military hat? I mean,
have you ever talked to him?
Have I ever talked to him? Mm-hmm. I talked to him before the election. Now I don't know whether the things that he has said to me are true, because I have this innate trust of his beliefs. Like I said, he has a Trump Pence sign in his yard. So, was he telling me what I wanted to hear? Was he expressing his true beliefs? I have questions now because I don't. Maybe he's not racist. Maybe he's thinking of the economy. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe his family has voted Republican
James, he probably thinks
all of their life.
no, he probably assumes that you hate him, and you probably assume that he doesn't
He
like
hates.
you.
Yeah.
And
No. Like I said, I've talked with this individual. I've lived in
yes,
this neighborhood since 2006.
right,
He,
but because the
he
flag
well,
went
wait a
up, the
minute.
Trump flag, now there's this new distrust, and you don't know why he voted for Trump. You want to assume that he
Like
voted for Trump for all the wrong reasons.
Wrong reasons.
But there were very valid points to vote for Trump, and you cannot deny the
I can
legitimacy.
I can deny him because I didn't vote for him, so I can deny.
Of course, but you can't deny that people have the right to be concerned about this push, this aggressive push towards socialism that used to be taboo, and now it's a
I don't believe that either. I don't believe that either. I don't see people rushing to throw their Social Security checks back to the government. I don't see people rushing to get rid of their social their disability insurance. So I mean,
Those aren't the only tenets of socialism, though. There are other things that are much more harmful.
I understand that, but if you're gonna, it's just like if you're gonna throw out the baby, are you gonna throw out the bathwater with it? I have a problem with the party that's trying to do away with something that I put my hard money into, and something that was the fruit of my labor, and you're telling me that I don't deserve it? Yeah. So I mean, like I said, it maybe he has a thing against Social Security. Maybe it might be a lot of things, but I had this innate trust because I don't trust the people that he voted for. So therefore, the conversations that I had with him in 2010 and 2016, before, because in 2016 he didn't have a Trump sign in his yard. So so when he put it up in 2020, I was kind of taken aback because me and this person, I mean, every morning across, if I see him sitting out there having coffee,
right, James, I get it. We only have a few minutes
hello.
left.
But we
James,
get.
but
This is my show. We got as long as we need. So don't worry about the time. So go ahead.
But you sound like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you voted for Biden more as a vote against Trump than a vote eagerly in favor of Biden because you were excited about his presidency.
Yes. I explained that to Christina.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why is it unreasonable to assume that he voted for Trump because he thought he was the lesser of two evils? He wasn't enthusiastic about Trump, but he certainly was concerned, possibly, take your pick. Biden has so many liabilities. Maybe he thought Biden was more racist than Trump for things that Biden has done and said, not to mention how compromised his family is with China. There's plenty of reasons to vote against Biden.
Trump has a bank account in China. No other U.S. president has ever had that. So let's not go there. But anyway, So we'll forget about
Hunter Biden doesn't. I mean, Joe Biden has more than a bank account in China.
It's not proven. Like you used to tell me.
No. They don't want to acknowledge that.
Okay, well,
you can say, just like you could say the emails weren't true.
Like I said, with my neighbor, he might have a totally legitimate reason for him. Like you said, I mean, maybe he figures.
But unless you have the facts, how can you assume anything? If he comes out and tells you, "Hey, I voted for Trump because of this and this and this," then you know. But until then, you're just operating on a presumption or an assumption. And you know what they say about assumptions.
Yes, I do.
But
like
want
I said,
to believe that he voted for Trump because he's a racist. You want to believe that he's a racist. You want to believe that it's as simple as that he voted for a deplorable candidate that you can't stand, and he isn't worth having a conversation with. Otherwise, you would have had a conversation with them. You would have tried to figure out where you guys differ. Yeah.
Precisely.
And that's terrible.
You are 100% right. You are 100% right.
But see, if everybody in the country makes that same assumption, we're never going to have a dialogue because we're all assuming certain things about the other people we're talking to. We never get to consensus.
Well, yeah, but that is the reason why I have programs like this where I try to listen to conservatives and see where they're coming from. But instead of making me more comfortable, they it sends me into more of a turn spin because I feel that.
But why?
Because I feel that there's no need. We can't have a rational conversation if we're not rational human beings.
Have we not had a rational conversation today?
Oh yes, and that's the reason.
But
like
James,
I said, go ahead.
Okay, respond. So this whole like gotcha culture of
oh boy, we're gonna have to wait. To me, I don't see that we can't have a rational conversation. And I don't see that we should assume that it's never possible. I don't understand why having a conversation with conservatives should make you more nervous, unless they've actually come out and said, hey, we hate you, we're going to eliminate you, eradicate you. Actually, things like that should make you nervous. But if they don't say that.
But the policies that you try to
put into effect.
Yeah, okay, I'll put it that way. I was going to use the word enslave, but but the policies that you want to put in effect have a direct effect on me as a person of color.
It would be the same thing with policies that the left tries to impose.
And as you know that I mean this was the reason why I started this program, because I that was the way that I felt. So I mean, so the left hasn't done anything to make me feel comfortable that they have my best interests at heart. For instance, I think we need police reform. Now that doesn't mean that I want to abandon the police.
Defund the police, yes.
But I do think that when I was growing up and we had the police athletic league and we had different agencies, even as bad as it may sound, we had institutions called nut houses.
Yeah,
and
I know.
And we took care of our mentally ill people.
Yes.
These are things nowadays. I mean, I can see things. I don't know if you're familiar with Nextdoor, which is another app.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on Nextdoor. Yes.
Okay, and you can see every day where you have people that are off their meds and they're either defecating in your yard or trying to break into your place. I mean,
right.
So it's
but that's another issue that we still haven't come to.
Right.
I mean,
right.
The nut houses or the mental institutions that you referred to, the kind of therapy that they put the mentally ill through at that time was horrific. Horrific. I mean, we are a little better now, but we still don't have a handle on that.
Right. But we have people, like I say, we have homeless people that need to be to have somewhere where they can have some type of therapy
or
I mean, these are just things that I think are human,
human concerns. Yes, they're not left, right, black, white, or anything else.
No, James, I totally agree. But you're going from step 1 to step 3. So there's a huge percentage, a majority, according to these numerous studies, of the homeless population that doesn't want treatment and they don't want housing. They want the freedom to do their drugs without being in a house, without being watched or monitored. What do you do to people that don't want the treatment, that are causing a nuisance at best and a severe safety
Danger.
violation? I mean, literally in San Francisco, where I don't go visit anymore, even though I have family there. You heard about the guy who was this very famous guy, 7 years old, went outside to test his new camera. They stole his camera, punched him in the head. He's gonna die. My brother sent me a video last year of 10, 11 cars right outside his street, all the passenger side windows broken. So these are crazy people. They're doing crimes for drugs. They steal, they sell the money for drugs. What do you do with people that don't want treatment, that are homeless specifically? What's the answer?
If they're breaking the
They're
law,
causing
you
a
lock.
havoc.
Well, first of all, you have to look at the reason why we had the problem. Like I said, is there something that we can do? Can we open up institutions? If there are people that don't want, I can guarantee you one thing, okay? And I'll tell you this from experience also. If you are locked up, whether it's on a county level or any type of a correctional institution, if they prescribe you those meds and you don't take those meds, then they will force them down your throat. Now, this might sound extreme,
But we're not
but
there. We don't,
what do
we're still
you,
at step one. Like step one is, what do we do with the people that don't want to be helped?
what
And,
you
and if
can't.
you round them all up, where do you keep them, right? You want to
Well,
put them in jails, then the
well,
jails get overloaded. You have a different problem.
would you rather for them to be sitting in your driveway when you come home?
Of
You
course
want to
not.
get them
But
help.
Well,
But
that's
if they
what
don't want help, you can't force them. I mean,
but if
what's the solution?
well, then if okay, if they don't want to get help, then like I said, you either lock them up, which may cause a severe
Overcrowding
strain.
problem, and then we have to pay for the resources to keep them in the jail, and that's taxpayer
Well,
money, and so we're
well,
creating more problems to
well,
solve one problem.
well, like I said, you either put them in an institution or you put them in your garage. It's up to you. It's kind of that's kind of a simple solution. You have to do one or the other. You can't let the problem go on. But you and Nick, go ahead. I'm going to give you
James?
another
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, great. So it's funny how things keep coming full circle, and it's not a good thing. It's
No,
funny, but it's not a good thing. So with the
it's not
homeless,
even funny. It's not even
Ironic,
funny.
ironic, I think is a better
yeah,
word.
yeah, it's not funny. You're right, and nobody ever uses the term ironic correctly, so I'm always afraid to use it. But what we're doing is just completing the circle. Everything from segregated schools, which you're seeing school boards that are having black student night for the parents, that are by request of the parents. They want to be with their school board and their school administrators away from white people. That's a thing now. You're seeing black dorms. That's a thing now. Voluntary segregation. So we pass these laws because it seems common sense. Like, why would you want these discriminatory laws that say you have to segregate the races? It sounds abhorrent. So we pass these laws, then people realize the problem's even worse, and then the people that were clamoring to get the policies changed are clamoring to have them restored.
Reversed.
You have black people asking for segregation, and then with
Can
okay,
you
so
give me an example? Give me one example because I'm black and I've never heard of this.
No, he talked about it. There are actual colleges where they're saying that we want, all black colleges or all black dorms in colleges.
all black dorms. Yeah,
black
and they're
dorms,
not.
yes.
These are not.
But wait a minute.
These are not all black colleges.
No.
Yeah,
But-
they are. Yeah.
But there are also have you seen any calls for this before the election of Donald Trump?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, now I really want you to name one because remember Trump was the
Okay.
greatest president since Lincoln. So name one institution that was not an HBCU. Let's see, wait, because
Well, wait. Why?
hold on, wait a minute. Because
The fact that there are.
I think Princeton and Harvard were the two institutions that you're referring to that asked for black dorms. But it
But
had a
those
lot.
aren't the ones I was referring to. No.
Okay,
But those are examples.
but it had a lot to do with the fact that the black students felt unsafe
Yeah.
being with white students. Now that I can understand. Like I said, this goes back to my neighbor. Why is all of a sudden is he, or at least why does he support someone that I think is racist? Besides the fact, in spite of the fact that we have had numerous conversations, and I, on the surface, felt that this was a good guy. So perception is part of this. If I don't feel safe, then I should be afforded somewhere where I feel safe, whether it's among my own or someone else.
But we don't accept that claim if anybody other than black people say they don't feel safe and they want to have their own enclave without any other racial ethnicity, any other race.
University of North Carolina, 1978. I think that you might.
No, I'm talking about modern day. We're talking about modern day, James. These are modern day claims right now that black people are making. They don't want to be with white people. They want to be voluntarily segregated. Okay, and that was not even the other example I was going to make is with homelessness, which we were talking about, is that we used to take people against their will and put them into asylum. Reagan gets blamed as if it was, as if Reagan unilaterally made the decision to close down these asylums to save money. That's what I taught. I mean, that's what I was taught in college, and that's what I read in New York Times. That's what they tell me to believe. So therefore, I used to think it was true until I realized what actually happened.
Why do we keep talking about the New York Times? No one here has subscribed that the New York Times is the Holy Bible.
I have.
Oh, okay. So
wait, I didn't know where you were going with that sentence.
So it's your Holy Bible.
I don't think it's the Holy Bible. No, I mean I think it's important. I think it's the Holy Bible of leftism. Certainly not but I think it's important to read both sides because there's truth between the extremes. So I do read National Review. I do read Washington Times. I do read Epoch Times. I don't trust Fox News. I think I view Fox News with the same disregard as you do. But what I was taught by my professors was that Reagan was to blame for the problem because he wanted to save money. So he got rid of all of the very nurturing institutions that used to take care of these people and just dumped them out in the street. And it's wrong on several levels. First of all,
it wasn't wrong in New York. I lived back there then, and that's exactly what they did. They opened the doors, they put them out, and they locked the doors back. That's exactly what they did in New York. So,
well, that wasn't a good thing. It's zero sum. It's putting the needs of mentally unstable people who are literally out of their minds on drugs, who cannot take care of themselves, and therefore are a menace to the residents and the children in that area. And we're supposed to prioritize the sensitivities of the people who are dangerous over the people who are law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. And the ACLU was the main instigator of the push in California, as well as the other. It was a Democrat and Republican bipartisan bill that was signed by Reagan, pushed forth by ACLU litigation, that made it so you can't forcibly incarcerate or put into institutionalize mentally unstable people. And that has had disastrous results. And that has been further worsened by Proposition 47 and numerous other legislation where we would have been already bad enough if we did nothing. But California had to take it 3 steps farther by making misdemeanors out of thefts of $950 or below instead of felonies like they used to be.
Well, the cutoff used to be $700, so maybe it did go up to $950. Okay, so how are we going to bridge this divide? Like I said, when both sides have preconceptions. Um, and the more you try to flip the script and say it's minorities, the more blowback
What do you
that we
mean by
get.
what do you
Well,
mean by minorities? What am I
minority
saying?
minorities. You're saying that everything. It's because of blacks. It's because of minorities. It's because of
What do you
this.
what do you wait? You're over. Wait, I never. You sounds like.
What
What
is
are you
what is
saying that I
because of
said?
minorities?
I never said.
Excuse me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What is
Well,
because of minorities? That
well,
the division?
the division. No, what I'm saying is that if you keep trying to, if you keep blaming minorities, if you keep like people like me, if you
But
keep
who's
saying,
blaming minorities?
wait a minute,
What have I done to
wait.
blame minorities?
Well, so far, it's okay. We'll start with the Reagan, like how your professors and stuff taught you, and
Thank you. Thank you.
that this has led you to believe that all of these people out here that are homeless are druggies and
No,
crazy.
not nobody's saying all of
Well,
them, but you're not going to say none of. I'm not
I'm
saying
not.
all of them, and you're not saying none of them.
No,
So somewhere in the middle.
There is a segment of the population,
Yes.
of the
yes,
homeless population.
right. Just
Again, if you're dealing with a small segment of the population and we're making generalizations about the whole population.
okay. Well, just like my assumption of a Trump voter. Okay,
Exactly.
and I'll put it like that. Okay, my assumption of a Trump voter. Most people that think like me, most people that look like me, believe that we are being targeted for for transgressions, like I think Nick said. Nobody owns slaves. None of your direct descendants have owned slaves. But when you keep us in a slave mentality, saying that not saying so much that we're second class citizens out loud, but when you do things like gerrymandering, when you do things like, because an election was won within minority districts, and you say that that election was no longer valid or no longer legal, it goes back to thinking that we're worthless. So therefore, instead of making ourselves worthless, we are going to do everything that we can to bring down a left, a right agenda that tries to make us second class citizens, i.e., number one, blacks are lazy, i.e., we're waiting for a stimulus check, and we don't want to work because it's easier for us to sit back and get a check. These are things that are going to separate and divide the country, as well as by races as well as by economics. And I don't see how we can possibly get back to having a constructive dialogue without both sides being able to make some type of concessions. And right now, within these first 10 days, everybody wants to talk about how this is a retaliation against Trump. Well, what did you expect it to be? I mean, seriously, what did you expect it to be after going through these last 4 years, a pandemic, economic destruction? I mean, what did you expect there to be? Did you expect that we were going to open up our arms to this man for another 4 years? What did you expect?
It doesn't have to be a scorched earth policy, right? You could put that behind us and say, okay, fine. We didn't like the way the election turned out. Let's move on. All this time, this whole podcast talking about healing, moving forward. but nobody's healing. Nobody's moving forward. What unity means is that we have to put aside our differences and have to put aside our resentment. Both sides. It's not just the Republicans. It's not just the conservatives. It's the liberals too. They have to stop feeling victimized. Now, you keep talking about, from your point of view, you keep looking at yourself as a second-class citizen or feeling victimized.
Oh no, that's the one thing I don't do. I don't feel victimized, and I don't look at myself as a second-class citizen because.
But you're saying people who look like me perceive that they are second-class citizens.
Well, what I'm saying is like the man said in the movie. We're not going to take it anymore. Now, I'd never considered myself a victim because I have always managed to live by my own principles, whether they got me in trouble or incarcerated or whatever. So I've always lived outside the box. But that does not mean that I don't feel a certain amount of sympathy toward my fellow brothers, and that does not make me feel comfortable, in the democratic process. Because I, as much as I want to believe that the democratic process makes us all equal, I've seen on many levels where that's just not true.
It cannot make us all equal. It gives us equal opportunity. That's all it's allowed to do. That's all it's not even a guarantee. That's all it tries to do. Give us equality of opportunity. Now, each of us that comes to the table has different limitations, different circumstances, right? So we're not able to take full advantage of the same opportunity. The 10 people are given, 2 or 3 may be able to take full advantage. Other people will say, well, I can't do what you can do. But if we are demanding equity, it's never going to happen. There is no such thing. And then we will keep on feeling victimized, saying that, well, I didn't get what you did.
But
I should get what you did.
But does the Constitution say that I'm supposed to have equal opportunity? Isn't that what isn't that in the preamble to the Constitution?
Equal opportunity, yes, we will provide you the opportunity. What you do with it is up to you.
But
the Constitution was a living, breathing document that changed. When they did have amendments in to abolish slavery, to allow for equal employment, to allow for lack of discrimination, both at the federal level, the state level, all of those kinds of things. How is that not equal opportunity? I'll give you the chance, but not everyone can take that chance or do the best with that chance that they're given for a variety of reasons. I mean, you may be able to run a marathon, right? The marathon's right there. You and I can enter a 5K. I have the opportunity to enter just like you. Who do you think will cross the finish line more quickly, you or me? But we have the same opportunity. But we're different people.
But if we both run the marathon and you're running, in a tracksuit and I have a 25-pound sack on my back, who wins then?
Well, that's not something that was, that's just something that happened, right?
Okay.
That's a circumstance that's outside of our control. But you got to run the marathon. Yes, you might have more to contend with. And if you manage to win the marathon in spite of that, more power to you. But you get to run it, and I get to run it. That's all they're telling you. We'll give you the chance to run. You may not win, but you get the chance.
Okay,
it's more than you get in most countries, let me tell you. Well, this is the only country in the world that gives you that range of opportunity. Every other country in the world, there are going to be barriers to anything you do. And I'm Indian, so I know.
Well, you have another different set of circumstances with the caste system and all that, so I know you understand.
Well, there's racism, it's casteism, there's racism, all kinds of things in India.
Yeah,
so that's, I mean, that's alive and well. So I understand that very well. And I'm very grateful to be here because at least my efforts will be rewarded some way. Maybe not the way I hope, but if I put in the effort, I'll get some reward for it.
So, right? So you still believe that America is the land of opportunity.
Absolutely.
Not so, I would definitely agree with you that we're better off than 98%
Many places in the world.
to 98% of the countries that I've been in.
Yeah.
With the exception of maybe, like I said, there's a couple exceptions, but I spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, so therefore,
So you know.
Southeast Asia and Central America. So yes, I do know. This is another reason why I am, kind of perplexed. Why we don't embrace people from other places, as far as like you were talking about open borders and things like that. When most of us,
because there's a different set of factors to be concerned about. But I have to step away because I have dinner calling. So
I'm gonna let Nick have the last word here.
Yeah,
yes, you are,
that's how
Nick.
I prefer.
Christine, you want to give us your last word, and then we'll turn it over to Nick.
No, I think I probably talked a lot. I'm just going to defer to Nick now.
All right. You have a good night, Christine.
You too. Thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you, James.
All right. You have a good one. Okay, Nick. We're going to give you the last word here. You got about, I'm going to give you about 10 minutes here. Go ahead. Do your worst.
I'll keep it pithy. I don't need 10 minutes, but in case I don't get the chance or you cut the line, I definitely need.
Civil discourse isn't dead. Okay. I like that. I like that. That emoji there, Nick. Civil discourse isn't dead. I like that. Nick always gets to the best. Before we can get to the best part, he's always cut off. I'm going to give him another couple minutes here and see if we can connect back with Nick.
Nick, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
This platform, we have a lot more technical issues on this platform than we did on the last one. I mean, I like the live stream, but the last one had a lot better quality. It seems like this is kind of buggy.
I know. I'm not sure. A lot of times I find with this one, if you have headphones or just earbuds, it accepts a lot better. I'm not exactly sure why, but go ahead, Nick, and I'll give you your last words.
Yeah. So, what I truly believe, like you saw, civil discourse isn't dead. I mean, it's been the foundation of this country, having difficult conversations, everything from the Federalist Papers, where there was a disagreement over very core concepts for which led to the foundation of this country, how strong the federal government should be, and those are very heated arguments. I mean, we've had.
It shouldn't be this hard on a Wednesday night. It's got to be Nick's connection.
Yeah. James, I wish there was a way I could just call instead of streaming. Like I'm spitting this hot fire, and you're not getting all of it. It's a real loss to you and your listeners. But let's just say, we'll probably have to continue this another time if you're not hearing me well. But What I fear and what I think you should fear more than you probably do is this threat of canceling the people we don't agree with, of ruining their lives, of going after their kids. And, I'm not going to say it's only done, by liberals. I know conservatives have been doing it too on some liberal politicians and anchors. It's terrible. And that's the biggest threat, is that people are afraid to have non-mainstream views. And look, like, I get that Martin Luther King was assassinated, JFK was assassinated. That's been part of our country's ugly history, is that people get their lives put in popular views at the time, even if they are popular, just because a vocal minority. And I don't mean that in a modern sense of minority. I just mean a smaller population takes issue, and they want that person silenced by any way possible, including elimination as a person. And that is my biggest fear. And I see it getting out of control. I see it spreading now to people's livelihoods that have nothing to do with politics, for something that they liked on Facebook, something that they tweeted, something they retweeted. These conversations that we're having, it really helps people understand that the other person, the conservative, is not this simplistic, cartoonish racist that I assume they are, because I never talk to them. If you talk to them, you'll realize they have what they think are the best interests in America in mind. I can.
What's up, Nick? Come on back. Just getting to the best part. Not exactly sure what happened.
Yeah, no, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
so yeah, I didn't get quite to hear the last of what you were saying when you were talking about people's lives, but I'm sure you were referring to social media and the way a lot of things have been talked about these past couple of days, and I do. I do have some concerns about the way things are perceived, and I also at times question, my beliefs and have conversations. That's why I like to have conversations with conservatives as well as liberals, and I don't mind listening. Perhaps I'll find something that'll change my mind, and but I think the first thing we have to do is at least sit down and talk. Maybe through the course of, like I said, civil conversation, we can come together on some points. And but I think the most important thing that we need to do during these 4 years is have a dialogue, and I will try to do that as much as possible. I thank everyone for joining us tonight. I thank Nick. I thank Christina for coming on. And sometime within the next 100 days, we will have them on again. I'm thinking at the 30-day period, and then we'll go from there. As I was telling everyone, I did get my first COVID shot yesterday, and I will be getting the next one in 30 days. So the distribution factor out here in California at least seems to have caught up with us a little bit. Thank you, everyone, for listening tonight. And I'll be 74 tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to having another great day. Hey, Seen a lot of things in these 74 years. A lot of things to talk about. A lot of things to reminisce about. But most of all, thank the good Lord for still being here. So have a great night, everyone. Look forward to talking to you next week on Monday. Check us out Monday on to another Imperfect Union. And we'll be talking politics again right here on the Political Consciousness of West Coast Steeler Fan. Have a great night, everyone. See you next week.